Video. It's not my best work, but I did want to show you and explain how I made these lighted presents for the little sleigh that I found at a yard sale a couple of years ago. I finally found a place for it out on our front walk, and I wanted an inexpensive way to put some presents in that sleigh. So I found a tutorial for a Dollar Tree set of presents like this using these wire cooling racks. But after 3 Dollar Trees, I could not find any cooling racks, and they were telling me that they didn't even sell them. So I'm not sure what part of the country those tutorials were made in, but I did find some at Walmart. So I took 2, and they were like the full-size cooling racks. And what you do is, this is for the bigger of the 2 presents. It took a lot of my effort, but I bent it in half. And there's probably other things that I could have done to make it a little easier, but I was trying to just kind of make this a quick project. So these cost me about $5 each for the cooling racks. And it took 2 to make the larger present. So the cost is going to be a little bit more than the Dollar Tree only supplies from those tutorials. But so I've got $10 into it with the 2 cooling racks. So I bent them both into an L shape like this. And I tried to bend them as squarely as I could, but you can see that it's kind of rounded a little bit on that one where I bent them, where it was bent in half. So once you have them bent to approximately 90 degrees as best you can, I was trying to check here to see if they were going to fit together pretty closely. So I needed to bend it a little bit more, but you're going to put them together 90 degrees to 90 degrees. The top and bottom are open for the time being. And then I basically just took wire and wrapped the wire around the top corner and a little bit down the side of where those 2 cooling racks met. And then I did the same thing on the other side, making sure that the top and bottom corners were wrapped tightly, and then a little bit, all of the excess, I just kind of kept working it down and wrapping as much. They didn't have to be, they weren't supporting anything, so they didn't have to be super duper strong. They just needed to hold up to being outside. We do get a lot of wind up on our hill, but that wire, as long as you have it tied in several spots along each side, was pretty darn good. So then I just kind of kept working my way around, so I'll speed it up a little bit. And then I clipped off the ends and just tucked them inside. I didn't want any sharp, I didn't want them to be too sharp so that they would be, poke me if I tried to reach up in for any of the lights. But that's all I did down each of the sides, was I just kept adding some wire and twisting it. Now, once I was done securing the 2 pieces together, it was time to think about the top. So I decided to take a longer piece, and I wrapped it along the diagonal from corner to corner. So I did that and just kind of weaved it in and around to make sure that it was secured. And then I took another piece and did the same thing from the other corner. But as I went around or over top of that other first piece, I tried to kind of wrap it around in the center so that they were secured to each other in the center, and made an X. So there's an X shape in there. And then I did the same thing with a couple more pieces from side to side, making sure that I wrapped it around that center so that they were all secured together in the center. Again, nothing super extraordinary in terms of structure, just making sure they were all secured so that I had something to lay the wrapping that I was going to be putting on later. And then, now this is where I failed to think this out ahead of time, but I grabbed the Dollar Tree lights that were recommended in the other tutorials that I watched. I mean, they're 20 little lights, and they were perfect for inside of here. For $1.25, you really can't beat that. And I left the non-lighted portion of the plug stick out and I wired it to one of those little loopy things on the inside, one of the little feet for the cooling rack. But I didn't think out the fact until after this was all said and done that those lights are indoor only lights. So it wasn't until I was all done and I had everything finished and all those lights were wired in, which by the way, that's all I did was I just wired them in random places on the inside, leaving the plug sticking out. I didn't think out where the lights went. I just wired them in random places because they were going to light up the whole thing anyway. The only problem was they were indoor lights. So I ended up not being able to use them, and I ended up just shoving one strand of regular indoor outdoor lights up in under both sets of presents because I left the bottom open. So I pushed some up and kind of hooked with a piece of wire, one piece of the lights under the one present, and then I made it kind of go under the other one. Like I let it drape out from under this one, and then I shoved some more lights up under it was all the same strand of lights. I just shared it between the two presents because they were right next to each other and they're in that sleigh. You can't see the light going from one to the other. But this part here, all I'm doing is using shelf liner, also from the Dollar Tree. I got 2 packages of it, and those 2 did exactly these 2 presents that I did. So all I'm doing is wrapping the best I can with hot glue and wrapping this shelf liner around. I really wasn't too concerned about how it looked because I knew in the end you weren't going to be really looking up close at it. So I just glued it on as best I could, and I did a double layer, and then I added ribbon, also from the Dollar Tree, because I knew this was going to be outside. I didn't want anything fancy. And then I worked on this other smaller one. Now these little cooling racks I already had. So I took one, it was about a 12 by 12, but if I would have folded them in half, they would have been a little bigger than I wanted. So I cut down the middle, and you have to make sure you cut down the right way. You want to cut so that you don't have a whole bunch of exposed sharp tips. But I cut down the middle, and then I folded both of those pieces and put them together as 2 L shapes so that it was a much smaller present. But here with these lights, again, these are the Dollar Tree lights that I didn't end up using because these are outside and these are only made for indoor. The presents are outside and the lights were for indoor. But here's me just wrapping some shelf liner around again, gluing some ribbon around, and I just tucked it under the bottoms and glued it on as well. Just a lot of hot glue. And then I added some it's like that rope cording that you can also buy at the Dollar Tree. And I just sort of made a little bow with that as well and wrapped it with wire onto the other bow. And then when you tuck them in, so I just have regular indoor outdoor lights, kind of pushed some of them up under one present and then drug the cord over under the other present, and it's fine. It works perfectly. So at least I'm using the proper lights for outside. And I just left the other ones in there, even though I'm not using them. So the overall cost for me ended up being right around $20. But I've seen these very expensive. I just saw some the other day for about $70. So I would love it if you would follow me on social. Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest are all my_home_matters. Facebook is My Home Matters LLC. And I hope you still got something out of this video, even though it was very quickly done. And I improvised using the other Walmart cooling racks.